What's going on, everybody? I'm Spartacris with the Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network. This is the Theater Room, episode 10. This is my Tuesday show where I basically go over any of the reviews, any of the kind of major things that I watched over the weekend. And I have a decent-sized list to talk about today. It won't be as long as the Snyder Cut, well, because let's be honest, that was 4 hours long. If you like this kind of stuff, if you're interested, like and subscribe. I go live on Twitch every Tuesday at around 8:30. I go Sundays at around 1:30. And I always post the recaps either later those same days or the next day. If you have any ideas, any suggestions, any comments, you can hit me up on any of the social networks that will be listed on the YouTube recap. And you can just comment while I'm talking about it and chatting. I'd like to hear if you don't agree, and if you do agree, I'd like to hear that too. Let's get into some deep conversations. That's always what I would prefer. And let's kind of jump right into it. So first, let's just talk about kind of the big dog right now of the week, which is generally going to be Marvel because they're releasing so much content over the next year or two. But we have episode 2 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I put up this picture of John Walker in particular because while the show was about Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, this guy seems to be a big part of the show as well. And this episode focused a lot on who he was, kind of introducing us to his character and letting us get to know him a little bit better. One thing I like, so in the comic books, he's a lot like the Winter Soldier actually, but the American version was chosen to be a lapdog essentially for the U.S. government, and he kind of just does whatever they want without any questions, which is not the greatest thing, and it's the one thing that Captain America, or that Steve Rogers in particular, wanted to go against. He didn't want the government to fully control everything that he did. And this guy is essentially what he didn't want to be. This is what the Sokovia Accords were going to cause, according to Steve, and what he was trying to fight and avoid. I'd be curious, obviously, to know what Iron Man thinks of this new Captain America. But the show is about Sam and Bucky and their reaction to this guy being the new Captain America. So right off the bat, I like that they start off by showing us that this new guy does have what seems like honest intentions, that he's not trying to sully the Captain America name, or, that he genuinely wants to do well and wants to help people and kind of do the Captain America mantle well. But clearly he doesn't have the morality, I guess you could say, or the capacity internally to do what might be needed, where Steve Rogers was willing to drop the shield if he had to, or go toe-to-toe directly with the government or shield. I don't think this guy would, and I think that's kind of the point. Obviously, nobody missed the fact that they kind of zoomed in on him using a gun, which, besides Captain America's first few missions, and I guess you can argue when he was on the helicarrier in the first Avengers movie, he almost never used guns. It was always a shield, and I'm sure he killed people with that shield, because that thing could, destroy a jet in the air, but he's throwing it at full blast at other people. But he didn't use a gun, so it doesn't look as bad. That was one thing. I feel like it was pretty telling, and I don't know if I'm kind of reading too deep into it, but I feel like it's pretty telling that this guy only ever really threw the shield if it was a direct shot, if it was a clear line of sight. It basically threw it and it bounced back. The only real creative use was when I can't remember the guy's name now, when his sidekick essentially fell off the truck and he threw it to protect the guy from any damage on the cement. Otherwise, it was always he throws it and catches it, throws it and catches it. And when you go back and watch a lot of what Steve Rogers did, it was ricocheting it off of 4 different walls. It was taking out 4 or 5 guys with it at the same time. He threw it at Ultron, and then on the bounce back, he kicks it right back at him on a rebound. He did something similar to Thanos when he threw it in the air. Thanos blocked it, then he threw the hammer to create a shockwave, then he threw it and then kicked it off the rebound again back into Thanos' face. It's like, or hit it with the hammer back into Thanos' face. He was just obviously way more comfortable and way more creative, and in my opinion, they're doing that on purpose with the choreography to really show the difference. I also thought it was telling that this guy spent most of the time without the helmet on. excuse me, where, we did see a lot of Steve Rogers without the helmet on. But it was almost like he grew into that. At first, he had the helmet on almost every time he had the Captain America suit on. And then he grew into not wearing the helmet as often. We all know that Chris Evans wasn't a big fan of the helmet. Who knows about this guy? I do love the actor, Kurt Russell's son, Wyatt Russell. He's a good actor. I kind of know him from Black Mirror and from 21 Jump Street. So this is a kind of a new role for him, a new character for him to take on. And I am very curious to see, where they go from here. I do think that I felt exactly what the creators of the show and what Marvel in general wanted me to feel when he first dropped down to help Bucky and Falcon and Sam, and started throwing the shield and almost like fighting like Captain America. To me, I felt that anger of like, who the is this guy? I kind of wanted him when one of my favorite scenes was when he throws the shield and Bucky catches it real quick and then kind of has a look on his face like this freaking guy and gives it back. To me, that was it was a good scene. I totally agreed with how they felt, and I want to see more of that. I was also pretty happy that, I was kind of like on their side when they wouldn't get in the Jeep at first with them. I could totally just agree with it. Now, having said that, I understand what Sam's going through, and I think this episode really kind of hammered home that Sam's whole trepidation with taking over the Captain America mantle was even in today's day and age, and this kind of rings true for real life. He wasn't sure if America was ready for a black Captain America. The whole point, and maybe I'm missing the point, but I think the whole point of meeting Isaiah and hearing his story about how he basically beat the Winter Soldier and just basically was thrown in prison for it and kept a secret and no one was told about him, kind of reaffirms to Sam that the world's not ready for a black Captain America. I will say, and I hope I don't get criticized for this, but I will say, I'm all for the show, tackling kind of the racial divide. I feel like of all the Marvel characters, this is the one show to do it. These are the characters to do it. It's kind of in theme. It hits home when it's Sam. But the scene of the cops showing up in the street out of nowhere and harassing Sam and kind of like giving Bucky, leniency essentially, and Bucky saying, who this guy is, like that was almost a little too much for me. I kind of thought that they did a good job of showing the racial tensions and the kind of problems that Sam might have to face that Bucky maybe is just not aware of. And they didn't really need that part. It almost felt like it slowed the show down a bit. But that's just my opinion. Otherwise, I am very much looking forward to seeing kind of more and more where they go from here, and how they tackle kind of this particular topic. It is a pretty good topic to talk about, and little things like the fact that Sam is essentially was a hired contractor, or essentially a hired fighter. And he wasn't getting paid by the government, so he wasn't really making a lot of money. It was pretty effed up in the first episode when the bank denied him his loan. And he was kind of explaining that he just they essentially survived off the goodwill of the people that they were saving. Those are things that, we haven't really thought about and haven't really talked about up until this show. So those are real topics and real problems that the superheroes are going to have to face. So I think it kind of makes sense. Some of the other things that stood out to me is like clearly, especially by the end of the episode, clearly, John Walker, the new Captain America, is going to have to go toe to toe with Sam and Bucky. I do think I'm curious to know. So I don't think the new Captain America is a super soldier. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have the serum. He's just a good soldier that was chosen to be the new Captain America. So I don't understand how he was almost able to hold his own a little bit with these super soldier villains. That was a little strange to me, and I thought it was a little kind of like almost like a continuity error, I guess, a little bit, or a little bit of a plot hole. And one thing I'm curious about too is, I don't think there's really super soldiers out there at all times. I have a feeling that it's going to be revealed that the super soldier serum is almost becoming like a drug, something that you inject or take a pill or whatever, and it gives you the strength and all that stuff temporarily. I feel like that's where we're going to go with this. I am excited for Zemo, spoiler alert, who was at the end of the episode. Clearly, I feel like Marvel's got big plans. I can almost see the writing on the wall for the Thunderbolts. which is if I remember correctly, is kind of like a Suicide Squad for the Marvel universe, with General Ross and Zemo kind of at the top of the food chain for them, and it's just kind of a group of villains who maybe are working for the U.S. government and really obviously have their own plans. There's a lot of setup, a lot of questions, and a lot of options that are going forward. So we'll see what kind of goes on. Now, remember, Falcon and Winter Soldier is only 6 episodes. So we're a third of the way through already. There's only 4 more episodes left. I'm glad that they seem to kind of pick up the pace a little bit this episode, but they don't have a lot of time to really tell these stories. And as far as we know, we have no idea when these characters are coming back to finish the stories. So, I wouldn't be surprised if things pick up quickly by the next episode. But otherwise, I'm loving the show. It's definitely very different from WandaVision. WandaVision started off as a big mystery, and like I said in my reviews for WandaVision, I don't think it necessarily stuck the landing that great, mainly because they were more focused on what's coming down the pipeline for Wanda and for Vision. I don't know that we're gonna have the same problem here, but we'll see what happens. I like the first 2 episodes so far. The action feels phenomenal. The visuals are great, but if the action feels like it would go right into a Russo brothers Captain America movie, Winter Soldier. Sam is clearly very skilled with those wings. Bucky is Bucky, and I like that he's a little bit more of that, kind of bold. I'm just going to go straight at it, and I want to punch my way through, and I'll ask questions later. And Sam has clearly learned a lot more from Steve Rogers, and is more of the, I want to think it through, I want to have a plan, I want to attack the correct way. So we'll see what happens. Episode 3 is this Friday, and from what I understand, most of the episodes are all going to be about 45 to 50 minutes. So there's room for stuff to happen next week. I am interested, but as you can probably tell, I'm not super duper excited and chomping at the bit for the next episode, because they haven't left us with a ton. The biggest thing right now is what's going to happen with Zemo and how's that going to go for the next episode. So moving on from Marvel, let's talk about the Mighty Ducks. Mighty Ducks Game Changers started last week. Episode 1 is out on Disney Plus for anyone who watched the old movies. It is, episode 1, it's definitely a little childish, but it had me laughing a few times. It feels kind of right in line with the Mighty Ducks movies. I think Emilio Estevez kind of, it seems like he fell right into character. It's a little strange to me that he was a pretty good lawyer, especially by Mighty Ducks 3. He was still doing his thing, and now he's kind of washed up and just owns a crappy rink, even though he doesn't have a hockey team there. It's almost like, it's a little strange to me. It kind of came out of nowhere. But other than that, I really don't have many complaints. I think the kids all fit some of the modern stereotypes, and like I said, there were a few jokes that landed for me. Lauren Graham is kind of endlessly likable as the lead of the show, and honestly, my wife is already all in just because she's a fan of hers. So if anything, even if I didn't like it, it's a show that my wife and I can watch together and get into together, and that's kind of rare. So the two of us will be watching this and probably loving every second of it. I don't like that, the Mighty Ducks I grew up with turned into a team that is just nasty to its players. And listen, I played hockey my entire life, and all the fanfare and the teams coming out on the ice, that's just ridiculous. No arena does that. So, but it is Disney and it is Mighty Ducks, and realism is not something that they're known for. But so I'm interested. I mean, if you like the originals, if you like hockey, there's not a lot of hockey stuff, shows or movies on TV. You got to give it a shot. And even if you weren't into the originals, I thought there were a few jokes that were pretty funny. And who can't get behind an underdog story with a bunch of kids trying to just kind of do what they love to do. So I would say give it a shot. Episode 1's coming out once a week, and episode 1 came out last. I want to say it was Friday. So no, it wouldn't compete with Falcon Winter Soldier. We'll get the actual release schedule, but just keep an eye out for it. The next thing I wanted to talk about, I watched actually a few episodes of Vikings. I'm on season 6, which was the final season, the second half of season 6, which I believe is 8 to 10 episodes, and I am now on episode 4. So for me, the one thing that I don't think a lot of people give this show enough credit for is it's one of the few shows that I can remember, and I'm looking at you, Walking Dead, that was able to kill off its main character that was really endlessly likable, and it was able to stop using a couple of the secondary characters that were major fan favorites and continue to be as good and as thrilling and as engaging as it always was. For those who don't know, the show starts off about a gentleman named Ragnar Lothbrok, who is a Viking, and he goes sailing and pillaging and whatever. It's about his rise to becoming the king. His wife was a big player and a big fan favorite. His firstborn son was a big player and a big fan favorite. His brother, a big player and a big fan favorite. His best friend in the world, a big fan favorite. But it all revolved around him. Over the years, they've been able to kill off or come up with story reasons why each of the random characters are no longer a part of it. And we've watched as his children have essentially carried his legacy. The guy I have pictured here was his firstborn son, Bjorn. And, for anyone who's watched, spoiler alert for if you haven't watched, he dies in the first episode of this half of the last season. And now we're kind of following his brothers, which were fathered by Ragnar, but mothered by another woman. And, I'm just as into it now as I was when Ragnar was still around. It's such a great show. It's going to end on a high note, it feels like. They're doing a spinoff. If you like epic period pieces, if you like these shows that kind of take real history and retell them in a cohesive kind of storyline, this is definitely one of those shows. It's gotten better and better over the years, and they clearly are pulling out all the stops for this final season. I'm a big fan. Even characters that I didn't like. There's a character named King Harold, for anyone who's watched the show. I would almost say, or my coworker actually said that he's almost like the Cersei Lannister of the Viking show. He essentially popped up and has never hid the fact that he wanted to take over, and any decision he made was always in his best interest. And at first I was like, screw this guy. But he showed up in this last episode that I watched to take his place as the king. And I was almost rooting for him. And I almost it was like a fist pump kind of moment. Like they've turned him into a character that I enjoy and that I have a lot of respect for. It's a great show. If you haven't given it a shot, you absolutely should give it a shot. Great show. 6 seasons, but it does that weird thing where like seasons 4, 5, and 6 are all parts 1 and 2, and they're each 10 episodes. They're 10 episodes each, so it's like 20 episodes for the whole season. For the record, I don't get why shows do that. Just say season 5A is season 5, season 5B is season 6, and just go on. I don't know why we have to keep splitting these seasons in half. It's ridiculous. And then last is the next Bond movie, Live and Let Die. This is the first Bond movie with Roger Moore, and I didn't get to finish it, but I did make my way through a good chunk of it. And I will say right now, just judging off of the first half of this movie, I think Roger Moore, in my opinion, is a better Bond than Sean Connery. But he's only Bond for 2 movies, so he doesn't have a big sample size to make an impression. I'll give you more of a ranking of the Bonds as I finish them, but we're kind of flying along now. I am ready for some more modern Bonds because, I don't feel like probably Dr. No through Goldfinger made some pretty big strides in the technology and the special effects. Since then, I feel like they've all looked essentially the same, followed the same beats. This one seems to be a little bit more of a step in a better direction. Just with the theme song alone, I didn't even realize, it never occurred to me that Live and Let Die, the song, is a Bond song. I just kind of always assumed they happen to have the same name. So when that was a song that came on during the opening credits, I got excited, actually, because that's a great song. But it's very different than the other Bond songs. The other Bond songs are all slower kind of anthems, and this is more of a rock kind of high-paced anthem, which kind of makes sense because the movie seems to almost be moving along at a quicker pace. But so, I'm enjoying it so far. There's really nothing that stood out to me. You still got some of the same kind of lame acting, some of the same cheesy like death scenes and action. As far as I'm concerned, probably From Russia with Love had the most intense action scenes compared to pretty much any other movies. Otherwise, the rest of them essentially turned Bond into a superhero, and you never really were that worried about whether he was going to die or not, or just get injured, or if someone was going to die. So Goldfinger probably comes a close second with that, but even then, I think Oddjob was a little overrated. He wasn't as intense as anything I ever read made him out to be. Goldfinger was a charismatic bad guy, But again, besides a few kind of iconic lines, he didn't really do much. So, that's kind of my order as far as the action is concerned. From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, and then the rest kind of fall in place. And this one's a little bit closer to From Russia with Love. So I'll be finishing that this week. That'll be pretty much it for the show. But before I go, I need to remind everybody, Godzilla versus Kong, or King Kong versus Godzilla, comes out tomorrow, people. It comes out tomorrow. Get ready. The early talk of the movie is that it's awesome, that it's fun, that it doesn't take itself too seriously, and that we see some major battles between the two of them. I am excited. There is some leaking out there of spoilers. I'm trying to avoid them as much as possible. I want to go into the movie as blind as I can, but I am pumped for this movie. It comes out tomorrow, and just before I came on the air, I did just see that Mortal Kombat was pushed back a week. So that was supposed to come out in April, I want to say 16th, and now it's April 23rd. Not a huge deal, but I'm excited to see that, so I'm looking forward to it. And what else? There were some posters that were released for Space Jam. If anyone's interested to what that's going to look like, just a quick Google search, you'll find them all. I'll go through that movie when it comes out, and I'll probably go through all the posters and just give my opinion on each character when that comes out. Sunday, I will be back on the air at around 1:30. I will be talking about any other news and updates that I already have a bunch in my email that I want to discuss. And I will be going over part 2 of my MCU Phase 4 prep, which will be focusing on some of the bad guys and some of the future characters coming to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, specifically Baron Zemo, Thunderbolt Ross, the Thunderbolts in general. I think that's going to be a big play going forward for Marvel. So I'll kind of detail those characters, and then I'll be back here next Tuesday to talk about episode 3 of the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which airs Friday. So if anyone's interested and you want to talk about it, make sure you watch the show and you jump on next Tuesday at around 8:30. I will be online. Otherwise, keep an eye out for the rest of the Generational Gaming and Entertainment Network. ScytheX, I see he's online right now streaming some Gears 5. One Shot and the Captain. The Captain was put up some video on Facebook the other day of some Guitar Hero skills. I will continue to shout him out that he was good, but he wasn't great. If you want to see great, I got to get my hands on a guitar, and I got an Xbox 360. Just got to get my hands on a guitar and maybe a drum set, and we can just form our own little digital rock band again. It's been a long time since I played those games. But yeah, keep an eye out, and then I will see you guys here on Sunday. GG, happy gaming, and make sure you watch Godzilla versus Kong, or Kong versus Godzilla. It comes out tomorrow. If I could start watching it at midnight tonight, I will. I believe it'll be available my time at 3 a.m., so I might have to wait until tomorrow. But I am pumped, and I will see you guys next week.